The truly rich do not dress like you think. They are not shopping for Gucci, YSL, or Balenciaga. That's all done by the middle class, in an attempt to look rich. But what does that really mean, to look rich? If we look at these three bags, you may think that these two are the most desirable, as they have big Gucci and Louis Vuitton logos on them. But in reality, it is the unbranded bag on the right from Hermes, which retails for over $100,000. And might I add, you need to be invited to purchase it. You cannot simply walk into Hermes and ask to purchase a Birkin bag in your favorite color. That comes after you spend tens of thousands of dollars with them and build up a portfolio. Modern luxury brands have trained us to think that logos and branding are worth everything, but underneath the giant logos are often pretty cheap and inferior goods, all designed to instill the illusion of wealth. Many studies have shown that the overwhelming majority of luxury goods are purchased by the lower and middle class market, with that market rapidly expanding. In essence, these brands have become status symbols, only purchased by those who can't afford it. If we look at brands like Bottega Veneta and Hermes, which both use minimalist branding and often higher-end materials, you rarely ever see a line out the door in these stores, much like you do at Gucci and Versace. The reason for this, people who are trying to appear rich want something that looks expensive, with big logos, and they are not going to spend $5,000 on something that looks ordinary, when they can go to Gucci and get a massive logo to carry around. This is where the concept of stealth wealth comes into play. Many of you might have seen conversations around this from the TV show Succession, which shows many of the characters wearing Brunello, a very minimalist but yet extremely expensive luxury brand. Oftentimes, people who are genuinely rich wear brands that don't announce themselves. They wear brands that are more under the radar, again, like Brunello and Patek, for example. Brunello makes ordinary looking clothing in very high quality material. Take one of Mark Zuckerberg's shirts, for example. This costs over $600, but it looks like something that can be purchased for only $6. Or this Patek Nautilus watch, which looks relatively ordinary, and most people probably would not know that they can sell in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range, with the most expensive one recently selling for over $500,000. People with true wealth are not trying to display it to everyone else. They often just want other people with wealth to recognize it, and wearing those more stealthy items are a way to fly under the radar with most, but be very loud with the few who actually know what they are worth. This is where a huge issue of income inequality on the global scale really comes into play. Interestingly, individuals from states with the highest income inequality have the greatest sales of luxury goods. This exaggerates the issue even further, as individuals with very little disposable income end up spending money they need for basic necessities just to appear wealthy. What does this even mean, though, to appear wealthy? People tend to gravitate towards things that seem exclusive, and luxury brands are experts at creating artificial scarcity. Some even go as far as to destroy excess goods, just to make their products seem hard to get. There is nothing exciting or wealthy feeling if something is owned by everyone. It seems ordinary in that case. To make matters even worse, many afterpay platforms such as Klarna became extremely popular during the pandemic. These platforms make people rationalize expensive purchases. Maybe they can't afford the $1,000, but they can afford $100 a month for the next 12 months. This ends up furthering credit card debt and still does not negate the fact that you still in the end are buying the full $1,000 good. And of course, these are never zero APR, so you're paying interest on that loan. And in many cases, that adds to credit card debt, which is even more interest because of the high APR associated with carrying a balance on your credit card. Is it starting to make sense how this becomes a super vicious cycle? People are buying goods designed to make them look rich, while at the same time driving themselves into extreme debt. This is a scary proposition, needless to say. Driving things even further in the wrong direction is that many people from younger generations are now buying luxury goods earlier than prior generations. This is making these items less scarce and, in essence, watering down exactly what people are going for with these items, and that is scarcity. This trend, by the way, is very alarming, as there are very few young people that have the proper amount of disposable income to be buying several $1,000 goods in a discretionary fashion. Given that a recession may be right around the corner, it's pretty scary that these trends are emerging. There's also been a really big mentality shift with the greater part of the younger generation. Given how expensive the housing market has become and how high interest rates are, many people view buying a house as something that is entirely out of reach. And in a way, they just give up on the proposition altogether. This turns into a bad mentality that they may as well just buy a luxury good because there's no reason to save up for these unobtainable homes. And of course, spending thousands of dollars on luxury goods is not bringing them anywhere closer. Luxury companies are absolutely capitalizing on this though. They want to continue pushing the notion that having luxury goods makes you seem rich. And in a time where other material assets are hard to acquire, this is so perfect for business. The line has also started to blur between fast fashion and high luxury. Many companies are pushing for fast sales in an online marketplace, and still demanding the high prices of a full retail experience. This is watering down the field of luxury goods even further, as when you shop for many of these items, it usually adds a bit of value to do it in store and really pick out and feel the quality of the good. You lose that ability altogether when all you have is a picture of it on your computer. This also allows the companies to incrementally reduce quality, as there's no way for the consumer to really know what they're getting until they have it, and at that point, they're less likely to send it back. This goes even further to the point I was making before of the fact that there isn't really a ton of value associated with these items. And the notion that they provide status or increase an individual's value is really crazy. This leads into the idea of perception of wealth. There are really two schools of this, and of course they boil down to the ideas of old money versus new money. This has really brought about two different, we'll call them factions, within luxury fashion. That which caters to the old money look, and that which caters to the new money look. As if it wasn't already complicated enough, there's a lot of meaning hidden behind each of these paths. The old money look, again, is sort of what we saw from Brunello, very understated and not loud. And the new money look is something like we would see from Balenciaga, with very flashy and, quite frankly, extremely loud pieces. While this does allow consumers to more or less pick an identity that they're after, it sort of operates to further some of the divides that we talked about earlier, because we're sort of offering people the ability to sort of join a class, or rather the class that they're trying to project themselves into. Now, while all of this is the case, it is super, super important to call out the fact that there's nothing inherently wrong with luxury goods. If there's a design from a brand that you like, and you are within your financial means to afford it, that's a great purchase. The issue simply arises when people are buying something not because they want it, but because of the status they think it grants them. No one good in and of itself lends itself to status. And moreover, status probably isn't something that we should be chasing to begin with. It is super important to exercise self-expression. I don't think anyone would say it's not. I think the issue arises when self-expression turns into trying to put on an ostentatious display just for the sake of doing so. Does every luxury good do this? Certainly not. Many are very understated. But there are a few pieces that a lot of these luxury houses are clearly designing just to make a showing. Not that for a second I'm going to claim to be an expert in the fashion world. But there's definitely a look to some of these goods that goes so against the traditional grain of fashion that there seems to be a very big ulterior motive to the way they are designed. This motive being to attract the type of buyer who's trying to look rich based on this purchase. And CEOs like Bernard Arnault, who is the head of LVMH, takes full advantage of this. And as a result, it's no shocker that he is one of the richest people on planet Earth. In a way, it's almost ironic that most of the stimulus checks from the government during COVID funneled their way right up to the billionaires. People had a lot of excess money, and rather than saving it, they went out and bought really expensive luxury goods. In the end, of course, people can spend their money any way they like. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And it has become clear that many people, especially those in lower middle class, tend to spend it on items that make them seem richer than they really are. Or at least, they hope it makes them look that way. I hope that this video was informative and that you learned something from it. And if you did, please do consider liking and subscribing, and I'll be sure to make more content just like this. And of course, the next time you go to make a purchase, maybe think about if you're buying it for yourself or if you're buying it so that others can see that you have it.